Well, good morning and hi. Jane here. What is the date? The 15th of December 2021. And this is the start of something new. And this is all due to Megan Geitenberg. Yes, Sally, you're Megan. After having spoken to her at, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning the other morning, we were chatting and she said something to me about telling stories. And she says, "You always tell stories, Jane." And I said, "Yes, I do." And, they missed out a lot on Grandy and Grandpa. And I said something about the fact that when old people die, one of the saddest things is all the stories that go with them. And I just think of Mum and Dad and how I know a lot of their stories, but now I want to ask them questions and they're not around. So I am going to tell stories about life, everyday things that have happened. Some of them will be sad, some of them will be funny, some of them will be just every day. And at the same time, not every time, but at the same time, I'm going to do some artwork. So I'm actually prepared today for a piece that I've been planning in my head, but for a couple of days, but I haven't got to it. And it's a gift for somebody. And I have my ham roll, which is very traditionally Freemantle for breakfast, which I haven't had. It's nearly 12:30, and a cup of tea because I've gone off coffee. These will never be, I'm not going to do my hair, I'm not going to put makeup on. These are raw and ready. They are not scripted, and it should be quite fun. So the big thing is that today, it's a bit of an interesting, I'm going to just try, and I've not done this before, so it's really going to be quite interesting. I don't actually want to be in the picture all the time, so can you see that? I might actually go from the front or move it slightly and have it in the. So what I'm planning today, on Sunday I painted 21 different paintings for teachers, my friends at school, friends and colleagues at school. Obviously it wasn't for everybody because we have a staff of over 100. And whilst I was doing it, they were on individual pieces of paper, and I had to then cut them down. Well, you don't tear them because it's watercolor paper. Tear them down to the size that I wanted for the frames. And in so doing, I had a look at these pieces that come off that have little bits of the paintings on them. So what I'm wanting to do is make a collage of the pieces. And this is for my principal. I'm just leaving the one school, and so is he. And really the story of this is really that in life there are all these little bits and pieces of life, different experiences, different people, some good, some bad in our lives, and that put the pieces together and it makes a whole. And with God's hand, it's always good in the end. We don't always see it. Sometimes we don't see the good at the time, but we can look back and see God's hand and see that he was there in the midst of it. So yes, there will be lots of talk about God because he's very important to me. And yeah, that's the traffic, pretty yuck. And I don't want to have half of me in there, so let's see if I can get me completely out. And I'm going to stop and have my ham roll anyway. But so this piece of work is going to be in a suspended, in a glass frame that will have no frame as such. It's just going to be piece of glass that two pieces, it's probably plastic actually, it comes from IKEA, so I don't know if it's glass, and then you suspend the piece in the middle. So I want to have a background of the Hessian, which is going to be all sort of raggedy like that, and then I'm going to start to build up the collage that will go on top of it. Now it's going to be quite interesting as well, because I actually don't know if I've got the right materials for this, in that the glues may need to be a bit different, because I've only got glue from Officeworks, and I've got some mediums that I could possibly use, but I don't think so. So I'm going to put it all together. There's a whole lot. There's 2 different palettes actually, so I'm going to do 2 and see what they like, because the other palette is this palette, which is actually purples, a very deep purple, beautiful color, that's called Moon Glow, by Daniel Smith. Watercolors, these are all on watercolor page, and let me see if I can find, oh, there's another one. So these sort of colors, and I'm going to put those together as well, and put the pieces together to make one piece. And then I might actually, the plan is that I will, what I'm thinking, and I'll experiment, is that I'll then take some more watercolors and I might actually put in the lines. I'm not sure. So it's a work in progress, but the big thing is that it's story time now. So we're going to start telling stories, and they're going to jump around, and I'll put this up probably on YouTube, and it'll be on Facebook. And I'd love it if, you know, people who do know me and want to ask questions, and then I'll tell that story or answer that question on a video, because sometimes I don't write. This all came about because Megan asked me if I journaled, and since I was a small youngster, paper and I don't go really well. My English teachers always used to say I wrote too much. Of course, I talked too much. That was also what they said. And Dad always used to say, "Oh, Jane, you have the gift of the gab." And so I've never journaled. I've never diaried. Mum did. Mum journaled. And I know Jenny does, and I think Megan does. I'm not sure who else in the family. I'm not sure if Di does. I know the boys don't. Sally, I'm not sure if Sally journals. And I certainly don't. So I am going to make an auditory video journal, and in it reflect on things in the past, in the present, jump around, and just have some fun with it and tell stories. So today I'm going to work on this. I have no idea about editing. If this ever looks like it's been edited, then Nicholas has come around and done some editing. I will need to get a new phone, because this one runs out of battery so quickly that I can't see it being able to hold its battery, and I will need to actually do fast forwarding through the artwork. But so I didn't know really where to start with stories, but just really the fact that in our lives there's so many different people, experiences. I've moved a lot. Ugh, can't say that that's fun. And that meant that I've lived in different places. I went to different schools. But all these disjointed little pieces in our lives make a big piece. And the other day, Mum and I, that's Mum Van, who's always referred to as Mum. So if you hear me talking about Mum, you have to ask, okay, now, is this Mum Van or is it Mum Freemantle, as in my mum? So they're interchangeable. Mum Van and I were discussing about how just one event can really change the road of a life, or the journey, the pathway that a life takes. And so one of the first things that I was discussing there was how Dad had decided that he was going to go to Canada, and he had applied for a job. My understanding was it was with the Canadian Mounties. Not that Dad liked horses or had a desire to be with horses, because he hated them from his early days. But he had made this plan, and he had written off, and he'd been offered the job, and the plan was to leave what was then Rhodesia and go to Canada for this new job in 1966. So I would have been 5 in 1966. So in the year 1965, I was 4, and the reason why it was 1966 was because Dad had joined the police, the BSAP, after the war in 1946. So he was one of the, what they actually called the infamous 46ers in the BSAP, and he was going to leave in June 1966 because he would have been there for 20 years, and that meant that he got his pension. Of course, Ian Smith, and that would be something that maybe other people will find difficult, but if you know me, you know that I didn't hold much love or respect for him, and nor did my father. Decided that we would have UDI, and he declared the Unilateral Declaration of Independence in 1965, November 1965, and that then meant that Dad's pension was gone. It didn't happen straight away, but it did the following year, when Britain then said, oh, well, that's fine, you've done that, we won't pay our pensions, etc. So Dad's BSAP pension that was due to be paid out in 1966 would not have been able to have been taken outside of the country. So that changed all the plans, that we didn't go to Canada. If Judy Taylor is watching this, she'll be saying, oh my goodness, we could have met in Canada. But that completely changed our lives, and we stayed in Rhodesia at that time, and forever from there. Well, since I could remember, when I was a bit older, Dad was always talking, Mum and Dad always talked a lot about leaving, and it was always about, well, we'll get Sally through junior school, and then we'll get Sally through senior school, and we'll finish Jane through senior school, and there were always, the goalposts always moved, and in the end they never left until, of course, we had to leave in the year 2000. And that was, so life changed completely in Mum and Dad's eyes from then. So just imagine, I could have grown up in Canada, but I have no regrets, and nor did Dad. Dad never had regrets. Megan asked me last night if Dad was truly content, or if he just didn't talk about things. And I said to her, no, Dad was truly content. Dad never, so that's Dad Freemantle, never complained. I never heard him complain, except for once when Mum put sugar in his tea after, 45 years of marriage, and he said, what have you done? But he was always very content. Mum used to say, oh, you would drink your tea out of a jam jar, and he'd say, yeah, quite happy to do that. So Dad had a policy of no regrets, not looking back. When I was 8, we moved from Bindura to Gwelo, and I remember him saying, I remember crying. In fact, I'm not sure if Mum wasn't crying and Sally, but anyway, we were all in the car, and we loved Bindura, and we were moving from Bindura. What year was that? 1969, I think. I think 1969. I was 8. And we were moving, and I remember Dad very clearly saying, you don't look back, you look forward. Always look forward. Don't go back. Look forward to the future, because it's always going to be better than what you've had in the past. So that's the story for today. I'm going to get on with this work. I'm going to turn this. I don't know how to do this actually. I wanted to make sure the microphone is off. I'll pause it. Now that's an interesting one. I've never paused before. So actually, no, what I'll do is I'm going to stop and then restart. Oh no, that will mean that the work gets done separately. So let's